think it might be now. Yeah, it just says it's streaming now. Okay, let me see. All right, guys, we had some technical difficulties. Um, look like it shut off, but we're gonna before we go into further, before we start. So Pastor Barrett, you have to tell your side over again. Um, let me just make sure that we are good to go. Okay, my wife tell me we're good to go.
Okay.
So you guys, so everybody, if you're watching, we are live again. So go ahead and reshare it, which is what I'm doing now. Tamika, what you laughing at? What you laughing at?
I'm waiting for it.
All right. So Pastor Barron, you can go ahead. So tell you go. What's your marriage story? So tell us how you guys met again.
Yeah, sure thing. So been together since we were 15. We were high school sweethearts. One detail I do want to just reiterate is that she was feeling me. And so, uh, uh, when that came to pass, then, hey, why not? Why not? So I gave it a chance. So at any rate, been together high school, throughout college, got married at 22, right after graduation, and
Okay.
been together ever since then. So it'll
Okay.
be 18 years this summer, July.
18 years.
Hmm.
That's good. That's good. All right, Tamika. Let's say your side.
I was going to say he was fairly accurate, other than he was definitely pursuing me. And I finally said, okay,
Okay. But you made it work a little bit.
a little bit, a lot.
My wife did that to me. I asked her out, and she made me wait 3 days before she answered my question. She went silent on me for 3 days, and so but I knew from the jump, when she first saw me, she was like, I gotta have him. But that's another story. So tell me about you guys. Did you guys have any marriage examples coming up of like good marriages? Bad. What was your example, your model, your marriage that you modeled after?
It was interesting from my case. Yeah, I was really blessed in that um, I saw nothing but marriages around me, and what I mean by that is, my parents were married. They had never divorced, never been separated. Same with my grandparents on both sides, and
Okay.
I would say the overwhelming majority of all my uncles and aunts, and because both my parents have 6 or 7 siblings on, each side. So come from a fairly large family. And, for the most part, without the exception of, one or two, all of them had, long marriages that, lasted for 20, 30, 40, however many years.
Okay.
So marriage was really coming up. That's what I understood was the norm. I didn't really see anything else um, other than that is normal. Everything else was maybe a circumstantial exception, I would say. But yeah, for the most part, my parents, uh, both of them were. I came up in a really good Christian home, so as I'm sure we'll talk about, or as commonly known, no marriage is perfect, and a lot of issues that I was exposed to, but for the most part, even still to this day, I came from a household to where my parents made it happen and loved each other, and still kicking it today.
Okay. Tamika?
Similar story. My parents have been married and have been great models for us as well. I don't think I had the longevity of the extended family members being married as long as Barrington did, but I do think that one thing that was instilled in um, myself and my sister, because my husband, when he married me, he married a father's princess. So I was taken my father took very good care of us. So that was always an example that I had. And I think because he was blessed with 2 girls, he knew how important it was for him to live up to high standards so that we would expect the same from our spouse.
Okay.
So I think that the model that I definitely got from my father on what a husband should be and what a husband should do has definitely carried us.
That's good. That's good because I think that um, examples and models that to have coming up of marriage is very important to how we are and how we tailor our marriages. Like my wife and I come from two different backgrounds. I came from a single parent background, was my mom who raised a single mother of 5 kids. She came from a background where her parents been married since she was born, since before she was born. So we merged that as when I didn't have my father, I never knew my father, but I had father figures. So
Yeah.
I still had marriage examples, um, but I didn't have it in the house. So
Mhm.
I only saw the good, or the outside. I never really saw the bad, until I got older and have some couples that are like mentor couples for us that they showed me the bad, or they told me examples of this is how you handle this, or they would say we just went through this and this is how you handle it. And so I learned from that. Then I also learned from my wife because my wife came in, this is what I'm used to.
Mhm.
So this
Yeah.
is a standard you have to come up to. I tell this story all the time. My wife and I were driving. We had just been married probably 6 months or to a year. And we were driving down the street and we were talking about finances. And she was like, babe, I've never had less than $1,000 in a savings account. And I was like, I've never had $1,000 in a savings account. So but that's what her dad taught her. Those are things she learned coming up. And I didn't learn that. So I had to really adjust and learn on the curve and learn trial and error in my marriage. But I had my mentors to go back to. But because my wife, she grew up with both parents and her dad took care of them,
Mhm.
and I didn't have that. So we have a question. It says, how can a husband successfully walk into the role of a husband when he marries a daddy's princess?
Mm. So you want me to take that right now?
Go for it.
Well, it's challenging, and I would say it's challenging just because, you know, she has an expectation, and that expectation is based off of what she knew a father and a husband, or more than anything, a man to be.
Mhm.
Now, at the same time, the assumption is if she married me, she saw some similar characteristics. So it's
I
not
like
that it
that.
could be too far of a gap, but
Mhm.
at the same time, we're still two totally different men.
Yeah.
Um, Same similar values probably, but we're different, and so I think it's been an adjustment probably on both ends. One, because see, to me, I think models are great in anything, whether it's athletics, whether it's in career aspirations, business, and in marriages. Models are good, but at the same time, we always have to be careful to make sure that a model is not the mandate for how things have to be. Because every marriage is unique, every person is different. So at any rate, I think the adjustment really has been on both of our ends. Me understanding that she has a certain level that has to be met in order for her to feel like she's secure in a marriage. But then also on her part, just realizing that, I'm unique and I'm different from maybe what she's seen too. So we have to allow room for each other in both those regards, to be who we are and adjust our expectations. But to whoever raised that question, is a great question. It's not easy. I'll
It's
say
not that hard.
that. But I think for the most part too, the biggest advantage is she would not have married me if she didn't think that
Right.
I would be able to meet any expectation that she had.
That's good. Tamika, I want you to chime in, but I want to respond to that. And I like how you said she wouldn't have married you if she didn't see some similarities.
Mhm.
And because, and I always tell the story, I go back to me and my marriage. When I met my wife, I just lost my job. I had no job and I was on unemployment. But she saw something in me that she still married me and was still planning a wedding with me when I didn't have a ring, didn't have the money to buy a ring, but she still planned a wedding with me and she still wanted to marry me because she saw something in me. Now, she came from a background where she's used to being, her daddy took care of their family, and I'm like, here I am, like, wondering, okay, she's marrying me and I don't have anything to bring. But I'm glad she did, marry me. But I like how you say that they must have seen something, some similarity to say yes and to marry you. With that, Tameka, can you chime in on that question?
Well, I agree with that. And I think that the two characteristics that I always saw in Barrington that were the same with my father is my father was always a provider and a protector. And those are the two things that Barrington is to me. He's always been a provider, and I've never had to worry about my security with him. My father was a hard worker. He's a hard worker, and we've been married for 18 years, and there have been times that he didn't have a job, but he always looked for a job. And I never felt like I needed to be concerned with him not being able to provide the things that our family needed. And even, in the conversations that I've had with my father, and he'll tell me all the time, I don't have to worry about you. And he's told me that ever since we've been married, I don't have to worry about you. And it's because he knows who I'm married to, and he knows that my husband is going to provide the things that he no longer needs to because I am married and I do have a husband. So those are the two things that stick out the most to me in regards to the similarities between my father and Barrington.
That's good. That's good. I like the way you said that your father said he doesn't have to worry about you. So that means going to looking at Barrington, that means he stepped into his role as a husband, and your father sees that and is like, he's a husband to my daughter, because when we marry, your father steps away, not steps away, but he steps aside, and we come in as that, take the place of your father to care for you. And when your father can say, I don't have to worry about you, that says a lot. Kudos, Barrington. That says
All
a
right.
lot.
Yeah.
Your father says that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, what does being a husband mean to you, Barrington?
Actually, some of the words that Tameka just spoke about, and again, this probably comes to my model, my father that I saw every day for 18 years, when I was at home. One is really just a provider. I really believe that as a husband, it means, God has gifted and graced us with a responsibility, and that is a household to take care of. And in taking care of that household, that means that we have to make sure that we are providing for our families. And obviously, that means, making sure that whatever is needed to keep the lights on, keep housing in place. I mean, any and all of that. But I think just providing, an environment that's good to live in, a safe and secure environment, providing, emotional stability. I mean, just anything that comes in that area or can be defined by provision, I think is really what the husband is supposed to do. And that's, to me, what it means being a husband. But then the other word that she uses, protector, too. I believe as a husband, we are required to protect our homes. One thing I take pride in is just, I mean, listen, every night. Now, we're blessed, we live in a decent neighborhood and we always have, but every night I can't rest unless I make sure that the alarm is on, cars are locked, doors are locked, just because, I mean, God forbid someone try to sneak in, my house. So I look at those as, my responsibility as just being the protector, just making sure that everything to the best that I can control is safe and secure.
Okay. Okay. So what, Tameka, what does it mean to you?
Repeat the question.
What does being a husband mean to you? So from your standpoint, from the wife's standpoint, what does it mean for him? What does a husband mean to you?
To me, I think one of the things I value in our marriage and our relationship is I think any wife sometimes just needs somebody to listen to. Like he's my sounding board. He's the person that I can go to and should be able to speak to freely about anything.
Okay.
That he's there and he understands. One of the things that I think is really unique but great about our relationship is we've been together for so long that he truly knows me better than anyone else.
Okay.
He's been with me longer than everyone else. So now he knows, and he can even say, you need to call your dad. I think you need to spend time with your father. You
Oh
know,
wow.
he knows when he knows when I need that. Or he'll say, I think that, you need to go home for the weekend and spend time with your family. So just having someone who has invested the time in truly, truly learning who you are as an individual is special. And I think that it's something that all wives really want from their husbands.
That's good, man. You about to get the Husband of the Year award. You need to go home, babe.
Well,
I think you need to go home and spend some time with your father, man. You set yourself up to get some points.
listen, we're still early in the interview, so it's still time for it to go the other direction.
So what's the best part of being a husband?
A couple of things come to mind. One is companionship. I mean, I think that, even scripturally, when you look at, when God created everything, he said it was good until he saw man. And then he said it's not good for man to be alone. So I think that we all just in our human nature, we're wired for community in some sense. And so I think as a husband, it's good to have someone to come home to and communicate with, talk to. And someone, we were just tossing around some of this conversation earlier. We've been together so long that, we were married at 22 and I'm going to be 40 fairly soon. So I'm a different person at 40 than I was at 22.
Mm-hmm.
So, just, knowing having somebody that throughout all the shifts and changes and everything still was there. So that speaks to the companionship, but it speaks to the longevity of just commitment and knowing without a shadow of a doubt that that they're there. To me, that's one of the greatest part about being a husband, is having that companionship.
Okay. So Tameka, what's the best part of having a husband?
Well, I'm going to be honest and say one of the best parts is, especially since we have 3 children, is having someone to help me to raise them. I am grateful for that every day, especially now that we're all in this house together. 24 hours all day long. I do appreciate that. And just having somebody, like he said, to grow with. Like Barrington said, we were babies when we started dating, and we really have grown and evolved together. And I think that getting to the places that we both are, we were able to get there because of the support and the encouragement that we had from that other person. And Barrington is definitely more adventurous than I am, but I need a little nudge. And he's always the one that will give me that nudge that I need to kind of jump out of that boat, or he'll push me out of that boat because he knows that that's what I need. So just being a team and having someone on your team that you trust is key to me.
That's good. And I love how you guys keep, it's like you guys been together since you were 15. That's awesome because you said babies, you guys practically grew up together.
Right.
So you know each other. It's like best friends for real.
Mhm.
You know, they say your spouse should be your best friend. You guys, 15. You know, my wife is my best friend. I know her. She knows me. You know, everybody changes over the time. But the fun we have together and how we are for going on 7 years, I know if you guys 15,
Mhm.
man, I know you guys have some laughs, have some good times,
Yeah.
been through some rough times, but the way you guys still together and how you work it, that's awesome. That says a lot about it because you see a lot of people not staying married 10 years now, not staying together 3 years now. So I love that. I just wanted to commend you guys for that.
Amen.
So how important are a husband's words to his wife?
You want me to take it? Want me to start?
You can start.
Okay. Um, I mean, as important as you can rate the scale. And the reason why I say that is because, I mean, just in general, I mean, you know, biblically, we can see that words um, can be a blessing or a burden. Words can build or they can break. And so, um, with the husband being the authority figure in the house, you know, we look at the biblical order, you know, God, Christ, husband, wife, you know, all the way on down. So if God has called me to be the authority figure, then my words carry a certain amount of weight to them. And so if I'm not intentional or cognizant about what I'm saying, um, then they could have a negative impact on her or my wife or any wife. Because words are powerful. You know what I mean? And you see that all throughout scriptures and everything. And with that, um, my words could either brighten her day or break her day.
Yeah.
And even not just looking at a day by day thing, I could strip her of her confidence, you know, her self esteem, you know, if I'm pouring more negative things into her. And so that's why, you know, again, one thing I learned from the models that I had, particularly my father, we didn't have a toxic environment, you know. So parents argued, you know, we had bad moments at times, but there wasn't constant yelling. I never really heard him speak in, you know, condescending to my mom, you know, and I appreciate that about my father because, you know, they're both, I mean, my father just turned 76, my mom just turned 71, and they get along so well. And I think what they contribute to it is that, you know, just the way that my dad cared for her with his language and his words, I mean, just helped her always feel secure in who they were and in the marriage too as well. So
That's good. That's good. You guys got the questions blowing up over here tonight. So Tameka, yeah, from your, how important are his words to you?
Well, I think I agree with everything that he said, but I think sometimes too, and we talk about this a lot, as a husband, it's not always what you say or how you say it, but sometimes it's that you say something.
Mm.
And I think that that's an area that we had to grow in because women were communicators. We need to talk and we need for our spouse to speak and to have communication with us, even when sometimes it's uncomfortable for them or they don't feel that it's necessary for them. I'm a processor. He's a fixer. I have to process the problem before we can fix the problem. He just wants to fix the problem and not do all the talking, but I need that. And so he had to learn that she needs to talk through this and I need to listen and I need to participate in the discussion. Because I think sometimes in marriages, so much damage can be done because the husband won't always communicate. Um, so I think that that's something key too, that it's very important how you say something, but it's also important that you say things and that you share and communicate with your spouse.
That's good. My wife and I learned that. I had to learn that because my wife and I'm a fixer too. I like to try to fix it. Sometimes my wife just tell me, "Well, just stop, because I'm like, oh, let's do this. As soon as something happens, no, let's do this. Let's do it. I don't want, she has to slow me down.
Yeah.
And there's times, there was one time we were going through and she wasn't hearing her heart. And she had to tell me, we had to get we have a couple that's like brothers and sisters, it's like our accountability couple. And we called them, and the husband said something and it broke something in her because she was like, that's what I'm trying to get him to understand. And I wasn't listening because my mind was focusing on just fixing everything. But I wasn't hearing her because I wasn't hearing her heart. I wasn't hearing it. And I had to learn that. I love how you said, just say something. Sometimes like it's not about what you say. Even if we say it and we don't get the right words out, but if we say something that it allows you to communicate with us to say, no, this is what I'm trying to say to you.
Yeah.
And some guys, they just sit back and just don't want to say anything or don't want to show emotions. But I had to learn that I have to listen to her so I can know the right words to say.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a question that says, as each person changes in marriage, how are you or how can you be intentional about growing together?
Well, I think the key word is intentional, because we know that everything constantly changes. Technology changes, seasons change. I mean, and so we need to expect that we as people are constantly evolving and changing. So with that, I need to expect that, again, going back to when we got married at 22, that Tameka would be different at 30 than she was at 22. Likewise
Okay.
for me. So when you know and you expect change, and then you allow room for that change, then I think that's where you can start to formulate success. But I think as a part of that change, we really are evolving, but we don't really know with certainty exactly who or what we are evolving to be. And so that's why I think in a marriage, it's critical to give each other room to make mistakes, to bump their head, to maybe recover from things that have been damaging, excuse me. So, I mean, it comes into, the aspect of grace. And I think that's what's key in a marriage is that as we change, we give each other grace, which is
Okay.
room to kind of change or adjust and adapt. And as long as we're intentional about that, then I think it'll come into a good rhythm or a good dance of, figuring each other out. And when I use the word intentional, piggybacking off the word Tamika used earlier, is learning each other. So it's almost like I have to, as a husband, relearn my wife very often. Uh,
Yeah.
because if I think the moment that I think I have her figured out, I'll realize I don't. And so now that's why I have to be intentional about just having the conversations. What makes you tick now? What do you like? What are your new goals? This 2020. What do you want to do differently in 2020 than you did in 2019? What are your career aspirations? What are your views on God? All those type things. So the better we can communicate, then the better we can um, uh, minimize the negative impact of the changes that need to be made.
That's good because sometimes we can think that, and I never thought about it that way, because sometimes we're taught that we get to know we get to know our spouses. We know our spouses. I know my wife left and right, in and out, that we don't take the time to, like you said, what's your goals this year? Relearn them. And I like that because I think if we take time, we relearn our spouses, that keeps the spice in the marriage. That keeps the fun in the marriage. Because say something my wife liked today, she might not like next year.
Right.
And I may go out and buy this thing because, oh, you loved it last year, but I don't love it this year. A mentor of
You
mine.
preaching
Uh,
now. You preaching now.
wow. Uh, a mentor of mine used to always say, "A woman's rule book is blank
Mm,
because it changes. She might like this today, but she don't like that tomorrow. And so it's like you got this book. Okay, what's the rule? Well, that was yesterday. I don't like that today. You go through the book. Well, Rule 22 said yesterday. Well, that was yesterday. Today is a different story. Uh, but I like the fact about you said we got to relearn our spouse, relearn our wives. I know my wife is watching as well, so I'm gonna be relearning my
mhm.
wife because I put these things when I do these interviews. I put things I learned from you guys into action in my own marriage
Amen.
because I know I'm not the expert. I haven't been married nothing but a quick minute, so but I'm learning because I want to have a great marriage. I want to have the example of what a kingdom marriage is. So we have another question. How long? Okay. Woo. How long do you argue about something before coming to a resolution? My husband can talk forever, and sometimes I feel like we circle around the problem too long before coming to a resolution.
You want me to start or you
I'm
want to
going to
start?
start.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
Well, I think that something that we have begun to learn how to master, we're
Mhm.
not experts at it yet, but I think that sometimes we've learned how to come to terms with agreeing to disagree, don't you think?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes we've learned that you're not always going to come to a resolution where you're both on the same page. And I think that we've learned how to respect each other's opinions and sides and figuring out a way to meet somewhere in the middle and move forward.
Hmm.
Don't you think that we've done
Hmm.
that?
Hmm.
Which is fairly recent, I think.
As in like 20 minutes ago.
No, because there are just sometimes going to be some sides, and you know how it is in a marriage where you say, well, I feel this way, and then the spouse says, well, that makes me feel this way, and you never knew about it until you brought it up. And I think
Mhm.
that happens a lot. But I don't think that either one of us really ever wants any type of misunderstanding to last long. Um,
Mhm.
but I think that that's when, we'll kind of play the back and forth. Are you going to talk about it? Do you want to talk about it? Are you going to talk about it? Well, when are we going to talk about it?
Mhm.
Wow.
Until we are able to bring it out. Because our reality is too, we're raising 3 children. And it's very important for us to see them to have parents that have a healthy relationship. And our children are old enough to sense any type of tension um, between us. And they're also old enough to kind of call us on it.
Mhm.
Mm.
Um, so I think that that also kind of helps us sometimes to, um, provide each other a little bit of grace and talk it through, um, sooner than later.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah. And I mean, just to add to that, I think it's going back to learning each other. It's a process of really getting to know and understand each other. And what I mean by that is, if I was to map out our marriage, year 1 through 8, 9, and 10, if we had an argument, the goal was to win. I'm just gonna be honest. The goal was to win.
So,
You know, we're not going to bed, or it's not over till I've won. And I mean, that's just a selfish part of being young and immature in a marriage. And again, we were young. We were 22. But as you get older, you realize that that should not be the goal, because we need to figure out whatever we're discussing, what's best for the team.
Yeah.
You so let me take the attention off of me, maybe what I want or what I think. Let's focus on the team. Now, the other thing is too, and again, I just refer back to everything what God teaches us through His Word. It says, "Don't let the sun go down on your wrath."
Mhm.
So meaning our best wise counsel from the Bible suggests that um, we should make it a goal to never go to bed angry, because that allows the opportunity for resentment to settle in throughout the night. By the time you wake up in the morning,
You're really angry.
you're really angry, and now whatever could have been resolved the day before has blossomed into something else. So just a couple practical things to me, I feel like I've learned to maybe kind of help shorten that window of a season to where we disagree or we're arguing. A really good book I reference a lot in my sermons and everything as I'm preaching or just doing leadership stuff. Is The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. That's the name of a book.
It's a good book.
Yeah. And so in one of the chapters, it talks about if you give people an opportunity to weigh in, then they're more inclined to buy in. So I think a lot of the root cause of our arguments is that we're doing way more talking than we are listening.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've learned, and I'm sure Tameka's learned too, if we give each other a true opportunity to just talk through it or communicate or what is their position, and we listen not with the intent to respond, but listen with the intent to understand. If we can get there, then I think we can meet a meeting place a lot sooner. Something that I've heard a couple of times that I repeat a lot: you earn the right to be heard by listening.
Mm.
And so
Good.
that's why, the book of James, chapter 1, it says, be slow to speak, but quick to hear. So I think to answer the person's question, the quicker that we can listen and get understanding, then that will help shorten that window of the argument. But as long as we're trying to force a point across, then it'll elongate the time and we may never really get to a resolution.
That's good. I want to respond to that, but I'll also then I'm gonna go back to something you said a minute ago. And I talk about this all the time. My wife and I, something we've learned early in our marriage is when it comes to listening and being heard and listening thing, we have what we call honesty sessions, where when it's something that we don't end or go to bed with we have an argument. We don't. It's like we're gonna talk about this before we hit the pillow. So what we have, like she'll say, babe, I need an honesty session. What an honesty session is we sit down, we pick a night, no distractions, no TV, no Caleb, or he sleep or whatever, and we sit down. She tells me what's on her heart. I have to listen. But the key is I have to listen, not listen to respond, because I have to listen to everything she said, and I can't rebut, I can't come in, I can't say, well, but no, I have to listen. Then when she finishes, I can't answer in defense. I have to answer in solution with a solution.
Okay, good.
So it's like when she finishes, I can't say, well, I did that because I have to think about it and say, okay, babe, I hear what you're saying. And this is what I think we can do to solve, or this is what I think, or let me reiterate, this is what I heard, this is what you're saying. So that's correct. Okay, so this is what I can do or what I think we can do to resolve this. Then when it's my turn, she has to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
She can't rebut, she can't come with a defense. She has to come back with a solution. Say, okay, I hear you. Let me repeat. Okay, this is what you're saying. And then so that gives me the opportunity to hear her heart, because I'm not listening to come back with a response.
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to come out with a solution. And for the person that asked that question, I want to tell you, you guys can try that out and just say, okay, let's sit down, let's have an honesty session. And it's not going to be all hunky dory easy the first time. So it'll take a couple of times for you, because everybody, when we're listening to respond, we're like, oh, but no. And then sometimes you get, I know in the beginning I would get mad because I'm like, how you feeling like that? That's not how. And I'm inside. I'm like, I need to defend myself. But then as we went along, I've learned to, okay, now that I'm hearing her, let me listen to her. Okay, this is what I can do. So the honesty sessions is one thing. Then you said, I lost that. Oh, you talking about when you were arguing and your goal was to win.
Mm-hmm.
Mentor of mine would always say, in a marriage, when you win, you lose.
You lose, absolutely.
And I never understood until I really looked at that, because we're one, we become one. So if I win against myself, then the other part of then she loses. If we're one, if I win the argument, I'm still losing because I feel like I've won. And if she's lost, or if she wins and I lost, then I've still lost because we're one. So we're fighting against each other.
Yeah.
And so it's like when we go into marriage, that's what people, when you're young, you go into marriage like that. I'm blessed. I'm really blessed. I got married. I believe I was 40 when we got married.
Mm-hmm.
So I had learned a lot from married. I hung around married couples. So I learned a lot from them about this stuff. So when we got married, a lot of stuff I was actually ready to put into action and
Yeah.
put into play. And a lot of the stuff that I was learning, I was writing down. I got notebooks with notes from when my pastor used to have a marriage seminar at the church, and I was the sound guy or the video guy. I'm back there. When they talking to married folk, I'm taking notes. So I had those things that I would do and use. And I started this journey where if I saw a married couple married over 10 years, I would ask them, what's a success tip? And they would give me a success tip, and I would write them down. I got probably about 100 of them right now. Just a list of success tips that I've got over the last 6 years from married couples that helps me in my marriage. I just rambled on, but I hope that helps somebody, and I hope we answer that question for you. So, what does it mean to be faithful?
You want that one? You want me to take it?
You can do that one.
Okay. I mean, I think the quick and dirty answer is when we get married, pretty much under the authority and the grace of God, we exchange marriage vows. And so in the language, we say certain things that we're committing to. So I think when we talk about being faithful, is being faithful to the agreement. So we had an agreement, a fidelity in various areas. So being faithful means we are committed to those vows. But I mean, I think being faithful is pretty broad and widespread, because I think you could talk about being financially faithful, excuse me, to your spouse, or emotionally faithful, spiritually faithful. So I mean, faithful can hit a lot of different categories, as opposed to just a third party, but more just whatever we have agreed to, making sure that we're committed to that with all integrity and everything that we have. So that's my quick and dirty answer on that.
Tameka?
Well, no, I agree with him, but I think too that in a marriage, being faithful also means just always making sure your priorities are your spouse is at the top of your priorities, and being faithful to the covenant that you've made with that person, that they're still a priority, and that the relationship is a priority.
Okay.
So I think that a lot of husbands, will say, and I hear even through ministry, that I'm faithful, I'm, committed to my spouse, but you also place a lot of additional commitments in front of your spouse.
Mm.
And I think that for wives, we feel that. We feel that. And those things can feel like infidelity, because you're still competing for attention or time that your spouse is, giving to something else. I mean, we talk about it all the time, even in the extracurricular activities that our 3 children are in. And, how do we make sure that we're still putting each other where we need to put each other, and being committed to each other when they have basketball and soccer and dance? So I think that when you're talking about being faithful, those are things that you have to think about too.
That's good. My wife would tell me quick, babe, you're stacking your schedule. So you could sure stack your schedule. She'll tell me you need to give something up. Something's got to give, and sometimes we, um, as ministers, as leaders in our church, we can put those things, ahead of everything too. And we're not thinking that we're putting this ahead of our wives, but it's just like, okay, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do this. And then we're like, oh, then when the wives bring to our attention, like, you're right, maybe I need to move this meeting or move that. And I'm learning to start delegating things to people to make sure. One thing I do is I put my family first. When it comes to anything, if I see that it's stacking up, I'll say, hey, I can't do this today. I gotta do stuff with my family. I gotta do this with my family. I gotta do this with my son. I gotta do this with my wife. Excuse me. And I'll rearrange some things. But that is so good how you said it, Tameka, that you guys feel that. And that it feels like infidelity. Because that's a good point, because we don't think about that. We don't think about that. I know I wouldn't think that it would feel like infidelity to my wife, to be honest. That if I got these things to do, that she feels like I'm being unfaithful to her, because, and not in a sexual sense, but just in a mental or emotional sense. I never thought about that could be a thought or a feeling. But now that you said that, as men, we need to think about that. We need to think about, okay, when we're putting things together, putting our day together, stacking our days, stacking our schedules. Sometimes we can get so caught up in we got to provide, we got to provide, we got to provide, that we don't think we still got to provide emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically. But we just think about the financial provision, and it can get us so focused and get us off track with that. I love how you said that. It can feel like infidelity, because never thought about that. So, guys, what's a marriage success tip?
What I would say, a good marriage success tip is kind of going back to that, as we talk about learning your spouse or relearning your spouse. I think we need to know what our spouses value. And this is something, I say a lot if I'm doing some marriage related, couples I've married or either at the church or whatnot. Because I've done a lot of studies just on organizational leadership. That's just something that's always interested me. Building teams, leading organizations, and everything. And one thing that they say is that in business or corporate setting, church setting, whatever, is that you have to know what your core values are. Like, what do you truly value as an organization? Because that will drive everything else. So I think in a marriage, we have to learn what each other's core values are. Like, what really do they value most of all? And whatever they value, we have to make it our priority. So
That's good.
Like for example, with Tameka, she values quality time. Quality time. I mean, that's what she values more than anything. It's one of her love languages. So if that's what she values, I can't miss that. I have to know that. And then in response, I have to make it my priority. I have to prioritize that almost above just about anything else. Now, also being mindful, again, as we talked about shifts and changes, next year, she may value something else, either equally as much or even more than that, as we change and our children change. But whatever it is, I have to learn that and I have to know that. So as a marriage tip, I would say just taking time to understand what truly does your spouse, your partner, or your mate value. What do they value? And then likewise, just make that a priority to make sure you understand and you execute on it.
Okay, Tameka?
I would say just to always give your spouse grace. Just not place unrealistic expectations on them, and to understand that we all fall short and allow them to recover and move on from that.
Okay, that's good. I love both of those. So, what I like to do at the end, the very last question I do at the end of each broadcast, Barrington, I want to give you the opportunity to just say something to husbands out there, to men, if they are a husband, if they're divorced, if they want to be a husband, single men and want to be a husband, just however God leads you, however you want to do, whether you want to pray over them, whether you want to give them a piece of advice. However, I give you this moment to just speak to the men out there, the husbands out there who want to be husbands, and just however you want, however you're led to speak to them.
Excellent. Yeah, I would love to do that. And actually, I'll take you up on both of that if it's okay. I would
Okay,
give a quick word of advice, and I can pray for those men if that's fine.
that's fine.
Okay. What immediately comes to mind? Um, David and Saul in that transition. David had described or said, "Show yourself to be a man." And when he said, "Show yourself to be a man," the language right after that was by demonstrating the will of God. So I don't think that any man can be successful at anything, truly, business, marriage, whatever, raising children, if it's not in alignment with what God's will is for you as a man. So I would say our best opportunity is to make sure that we are connecting with God and the Word of God, truly, because that's our manual, that's our instructions. Everything we talked about here today, some aspect of it, we can pull that from the wisdom from the Word of God. Because, if the order truly is, God, Christ, man, then woman, we can't expect our wives to follow us if we're not following Christ. And so we need to make sure that we're in alignment completely with that. So that would be a quick tidbit because I know we're almost out of time. So
Are
can
you
I?
good? You good? Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. Well, I'll just go ahead and pray for the men right now on that, if that's okay.
Okay.
So, Father, just for every man here that is listening now or will listen to this recording later, I pray, dear God, that as they're thinking through the ingredients to be successful as a husband, whether now or in the years to come, or maybe if they're divorced or single, whatever their categorization may be, dear God, I pray that they'll understand that their manhood is connected to you. So, Father, I pray that they will somehow figure out that this life is not for them to live independent of you, but that they need to be fully committed and connected to everything that you've said and everything that you do. I pray that you'll empower every man to realize that regardless of whatever mistakes that they've made, that they are not their mistake, but they are still truly royalty in your eyes. Let every man see their giftedness, their strengths, dear God, even their weaknesses, dear Lord. But let every man, including myself, submit all of them to you in the name of Jesus. We love you. We thank you. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you. Well, guys, tell them about your church, name of your church, where they can find you. I know right now we're on lockdown and social distancing, but tell them how they can follow you and where the church is and your website and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So our website URL is www.insidenewzion.org. And actually, just to start, the name of the church is New Zion Missionary Baptist Church, and we're local here in Charlotte, North Carolina. But insidenewzion.org. We actually have a mobile app. It's available too, which is NZMBC, which is short for New Zion Missionary Baptist Church. That's on Google Play and the Apple Store too as well. We are streaming our services on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. The details you can find on the website, but we're streaming on Facebook and YouTube. Facebook, you can find us, New Zion Missionary Baptist Church, Charlotte, and YouTube. We are New Zion Be Well. That's our part of our vision statement. But again, all that's online. So, and I'm not as social media savvy as some of my other peers in the ministry, but I do have a Facebook page. Yes, the Facebook page, Barrington Johnson. You can find me there if you choose to. And I think that's about it. I got any other contact information? Okay. That's it.
Well, guys, thank you, Barrington. Thank you for being on. Tameka, thank you for your wisdom as well. It was a great interview tonight, guys. Appreciate it. And we're gonna have you guys on again at some point. But I want to thank you guys for coming on, guys. Thank you for watching tonight. Thank you for your questions. If I didn't get to all of your questions, I apologize, but we can answer them on our YouTube page, on our website. If you got any more questions for us, just email us at hello@kingdomrelationships.org. You can check out our page if you want to see this interview again at kingdomrelationships.org, or our YouTube page at Kingdom Relationships, or our Facebook page at Kingdom Relationships. There you'll see different things, different tools and things that we have for you. Anything you want to talk about, any topics, just let me know and we'll tackle it for you. Again, guys, thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see you guys next week for another great interview. We have our marriage mentors that's going to be on Accountability Couple next week. But we love you guys. Again, check us out at our website. Go to Pastor Barrington's website. Again, until next week, be victorious.
Amen. God bless.
God bless.
Bye.